Ladies and gentlemen, friends, colleagues and listeners, here we are, another weekend show. And here I am with Mr. Dixon again. And pleased to see you, Steve. How are you?
Hi, Chris. I'm very well, thank you. Good afternoon from Langkawi, Malaysia.
Looks very nice there in the background, my friend. Absolutely beautiful.
It's a little bolt hole. Yes, it's a nice spot to be. I'm just hoping the thunderstorm will hold off. It said forecast for about 40 minutes from now. So we will hopefully do our listeners no harm in finishing up within 40 minutes time before the rain arrives.
Yeah, that'll add a little bit of excitement, wouldn't it, to the podcast?
Indeed.
It starts bucketing down and see you.
That's right. Yeah.
All right, my friend. Listen, good to have you back on. I want to start with this little headline. Let me show you this one. Can you see this?
I sure can. Yes.
Can you see this? Landing fees row threatens Heathrow's hub status. I mean, the percentages that they're talking about, differentials between other major hubs, it's ludicrous, Steve.
Well, I haven't. Was that in the Telegraph, Chris? Was that yesterday's Telegraph?
Yeah.
I haven't seen the article, so I won't quote numbers in the interest of accuracy and ensuring that this podcast is known always for being factually correct, and I will never not allow that to be disputed on this occasion, in this episode. But it's certainly well known, I think, Chris, across the industry, that Heathrow has a rather interesting request, which is essentially to recoup all of the deferred fees that were awarded, or the concession was awarded by the regulator, by the CA, the Civil Aviation Authority, over the course of the next pricing review, which to me just seems utterly bizarre, given the fact that Heathrow's regulatory asset or regulated asset base is predicated on invested capital. So one could only assume that Heathrow surely isn't needing to invest the kind of sums that we were speaking about before. In which case, surely the OPEX that they're asking for from their customers surely should be going south rather than north. Now, I accept that volumes obviously are lower, so on a regulated asset base, the users have to cover the cost of the RAB. But it does seem rather bizarre at a time also when I know that the UK government is trying to herald the return of the UK back to its rightful place as the third largest aviation market in the world. I don't think this will do anything for that agenda at all.
Yeah, it's madness, isn't it? But ironically, I'm not sure if you've seen just over here as well. Okay, the biggest riser yesterday. Biggest riser on Friday
was IAG.
Yes, IAG. No. Yeah,
IAG. Yeah, I did know that because my Bloomberg app notified me of the improvement in the price, because I have to admit to being an IAG shareholder for those here present. A modest one, I must say, but nonetheless, I am a shareholder of IAG. I try not to invest in airline stocks because I once made a hash of it. So we've moved on since then. But no, IAG's been performing particularly well, as has Ryanair over the last few weeks, Chris. And it's really pleasing more generally, I think, to see the market starting to respond to the recovery, and the investors responding to that as well. So the pricing is responding accordingly.
Yeah, and you mentioned there Ryanair and also Wizz Air reporting their first profitable quarters, which is fantastic, excellent, isn't it?
Fabulous news. So we mentioned on this show last week the news that Eurocontrol had reported, the results Eurocontrol had reported in terms of the previous week's traffic, which was that Ryanair were back level with the 2019 capacity in terms of ATMs.
Yeah.
And Wizz Air, I think we're up. I think it was 11%, Chris, 11 or 12%. The likes of EasyJet and British Airways were still down 40% 2019 on 2021, or 2019. So I think that is still rather troubling. So whilst Ryanair and Wizz Air are kind of setting themselves apart from the rest, we need the whole of industry to be moving, and the whole of industry to be progressing. But nonetheless, if you're a Ryanair shareholder or a Wizz Air shareholder this week, I suspect that you'll be sitting pretty comfortably.
Yeah, and I think and there'll be more to follow. I think it's gonna keep improving. So long may it do so as well. Now, you always like to have a little Australian segment whenever we can, especially if there's good news. So here we are again. With
I,
more
sh-
good
I
news.
didn't get my gold and green on today, Chris.
No, no, well,
Now
I've got enough.
I just have to pause you there, because is that a Commonwealth shirt, or what have you got on there? Because I can see Jamaica, Wales, England, and something else. So it looks Commonwealth to me. Union Jack, yeah.
Yeah,
Australia. You look like you're flying the flags of the Commonwealth. Is that correct?
that's correct, mate. Yeah, yeah. I love to make friends.
And many friends you have indeed, Chris.
Yeah, no, but it's
I'm just not sure if they're from those countries, Chris.
yeah. No, well, some of them. But
I know. I'm teasing.
I know. But yeah, no, but Qantas, after all the blockade and the
Oh, it's
shutdown, and
fabulous.
it's incredible now the way good news just seems to pour out like a dam busted.
Yeah, it's really good. I mean, I think we've seen some big announcements from Qantas this week. Qantas have announced more new routes this week than in their entire 100-year history, which is pretty spectacular, I think. Qantas really have pivoted to pick up a lot of the slack. So where other airlines have been slow to respond, so the natural markets maybe of the, dare I say, the lower end, the C's and the D's, they have kind of moved slowly to pick up that traffic. Qantas have responded quite quickly, so they've been much more focusing on leisure routes through the pandemic, and they've just done a whole lot more of that recently. Virgin Australia, I think, are still not quite sure of where they're heading, Chris. I think they are a little bit uncertain, let's say. They have obviously tried to stem their massive losses from years gone by, and they're not agile in the way that they may wanted to have been, and therefore Qantas have been able to they have the fleet available, they've had the crews available, they've had the capability and the competence available in order to respond. They've also had the liquidity available, and that's been really important throughout this crisis. Is liquidity and cash availability has been a massive kind of decider or influencer in terms of where airlines can go. So you look at the commonality. People would say, well, let's not compare Qantas with the likes of Ryanair or Wizz Air. I would say let's compare the likes of Qantas with Wizz Air and Ryanair, for the very reason that the airlines that have responded quickly and be able to capitalize on the opportunities are those that have got liquidity and cash and sort of shored up their equity positions and shored up their balance sheets, which include the likes of Ryanair, Wizz Air, and Qantas. You wouldn't normally put those three airlines in the same kind of bucket. But Qantas have really capitalized on that. The most reassuring thing, Chris, I think, as you'll probably agree, is the fact that they are returning all nearly, I can't remember the number, but 25 to 30,000 employees, onshore employees, back to work next month.
That to me way ahead of the target.
We're 6 or 7 months ahead of the target, which I think is absolutely fantastic news. And Alan received a lot of flack, I think, at the outset for being pretty tough and deep and hard and early, some would say, with the cuts that he made. But I can assure you, and I'm sure the whole employee groups and the consumers now in Australia are seeing that Alan Joyce was very astute in making those decisions early, and I take my hat off to him quite literally, because Alan's somebody that I've worked for directly and have a lot of time for, and I think his stewardship of Qantas through this period has been second to none. So great to see that. Jetstar again today, 75,000 seats sold in the last 3 days, their highest ever number of seats sold in a 72-hour period. So it just goes from strength to strength, really. What they don't need is a new competitor kind of nipping at their heels, I guess, entering the market that might sort of upset the apple cart.
Yeah, but that's definitely going to happen with the opportunities and the aircraft and everything. So that's going to add to the mix. But one of the things we spoke about way early, and you brought it up, you said the way organizations respond and react and keep customer service and customer focus at heart will be the ones that will do well at the end. And whether that's to do with refunds, vouchers, whatever it is, or whether or not it's to do with the investment within the business and the services, whether it's the cabin or whatever. Now, those that have really gone out of their way and they've exercised the quality of the services provided, I think are going to do exceptionally well now, and they're going to add to that because they're going to see an advantage. But this last couple of weekends, lots of people I know have been coming back from places that they booked quite late, and they've been coming back on a various cross section of carriers. But some of the traditional carriers, my God, are they getting bad feedback? And I was out for dinner last night, and obviously just because I've got a background, they were telling me, how can they do this? How can someone do this? What do they expect? They were so mad. And some of them have been, they've been loyal customers for years and years. And they said, that's it now. They would prefer now to go via somewhere. And they mentioned Qatar, they mentioned Abu Dhabi, they mentioned, Dubai. So they're more willing to do that now than ever before because of the way they've been treated.
Well, I find that really quite, it's difficult, Chris. I guess in some ways, like I am with my wife, and I'm sure you are with Kathy. Ramani has high expectations. I think all wives do, right? So putting myself or yourself in your wife's shoes, you book.
Let's not go there, Steve.
Not literally, Chris. Not literally. Well, maybe except the 21st of December, Chris. You can wear what you like then.
Yeah.
I gave the game away now. Let's not giving the location away.
Yeah.
But look, I mean, if you were, in your wife's shoes and you booked a special restaurant for a special anniversary or birthday and celebration, and it was several months ahead of time, and that you're a waiting list to get into that said restaurant because it might have been a 1, 2, or 3-star Michelin or something, you would expect, that this thing will be, pretty darn good when you came to experience it. If that restaurant wasn't, or what you felt that you paid for that experience, which would be 100, 200, 300, 400 quid a head, potentially for a dinner, including wine, you'd feel pretty hard done by, I suspect, right? I mean, if the service was poor, if the service was slow, if the food wasn't as you expected, if the wine was, right, okay. I guess, in our business, we've come to sort of, treat sort of business class dining or first class dining in aircraft, some airlines have certainly, as just a commodity purchase. And I think what's happened is, Chris, is these commodity purchases were okay pre-COVID, because then it was a commodity purchase. So business class flying for business travelers, those traveling on the company's expenses, it was expense. It was just a run-of-the-mill experience. So it didn't have to be brilliant. It had to be good, but not brilliant. Those traveling in first class on their own expense, because generally companies wouldn't sit in first class. I mean, that would be a bit of an odd thing these days. But generally, those that have made it in life, or that have won a few upgrades, Dave Ambridge and myself, who prefer to sit in the first cabin, they are pretty laid back about service in any case, because actually there's nothing to show, there's nothing to give, there's nothing, so it's all very, yes, the food is great, yes, the wines are great, yes, the champagnes are great, but you can be a little bit more forgiving, I think, in first than you can be in business class. That's certainly my experience. What's happened now, Chris, is
I'd agree.
Flying is no longer discretionary, and it's no longer a commodity purchase. So when you're thinking about traveling now, it's actually quite a difficult purchase to make. It's actually quite hard work to fly. So whether you're flying from London to Barcelona or you're flying from London to Singapore, actually that's quite a big effort. So in business, I mean, I saw it today, or yesterday, flying here. It's only a 40-minute flight from Langkawi yesterday from Kuala Lumpur to Langkawi. But Chris, there was no service, there's no water, there's no snack, nothing, zero. So what there used to be was gone. Oh, we can't say because of COVID, or because of the COVID, which I love. I think that's a great phrase, the COVID. I think the rain is about to arrive here, by the way, because of the COVID. So I think airlines pared down the service because of the COVID, right? So what's happened is those that have stolen a march on that. So we're flying is no longer discretionary, and you're now looking at options. You can choose between airlines that have invested more in service, that have invested more in training, that have invested more in service excellence. Great to see Saudi, a world's most improved airline, the service excellence program that that I will call out Nikki Woor, who part of our Scarlet Aviation team, who worked on that and developed that program for them back in 2015 and 16 to get them up to a 4-star airline, which was fabulously received. And now Saudi is most improved airline, something I guess you'll appreciate as well, Chris. But to see the likes of,
I just flew on them recently, Steve. It was outstanding.
Outstanding. To see, I flew in Saudi a couple of weeks ago as well. To see the likes of them invest in that has been amazing. So when I look at the European short haul carriers, and I look at what they do short haul with the narrow body, 320, 172, 180 seats, whatever, and they block off a middle seat in the front 5 or 6 or 10 rows, even if they've got available curtain, it's still an economy seat. It's not a business class product. You get a poached egg rather than a scrambled egg. You get a bottle of champagne rather than a bottle of Prosecco. You might get a gin and tonic where you got to pay for it in the economy cabin. I mean, it's just woeful. So I think the European carriers have got a lot to say in this space, but I don't think that necessarily is the place going forward for that kind of level of leisure, that level of corporate spend when it comes to intra-European travel. I think they will move more down the back of the cabin. Therefore, it will be your high-end discretionary spend in the leisure space, and therefore, maybe there's some more latitude in that space. But I hear what your friends are saying, and I would agree with it, having seen it myself.
Yeah. No, it's awful. But on the other hand, it's good to see. It's good to see that the likes of British Airways now are, they've selected Collins Aerospace to upgrade their 777 fleet with enhanced Club World experience, which is, I think, it's pretty much long overdue as well. They need to. But interesting that some of
those oldest triples, Chris, actually the oldest triples, the Victor India fleet. Sorry, I have Sado that knows these things, the 200s, they got the new Club suites. The Yankee Mikes, the 300s that are Heathrow-based aircraft are still waiting for the upgrades, and but they're moving into the new Club suite. And they said that actually within 2 years' time, they will all have the new Club suite seating, which I think is fabulous.
Yeah.
It does beg the question now: what is the difference between Club and First? Therein lies the sort of dichotomy. It's now started to rain rather heavily, so excuse me, my friend, I'm going to have to make a rather quick move. We'll try and do this discreetly.
Yeah. Just nice little tour of the region there. Yeah.
So we'll just pop ourselves here, and I hope that will work for
that'll be fine.
And our viewers.
That'll be fine. Whilst you're replacing yourself. One of the interesting things, Stephen, and I know you do an awful lot of travelling, but
No.
Yeah, well, you used to.
No, not me.
When they got the club areas, they've got separate like club kitchen and galley, and they've got all the inserts and their own fridges. The displays are really nice, so that you can actually go and help yourself whenever you want. I mean, that's becoming quite a nice trend now.
Well, I would say it's a dying trend, Chris, because what they've done is they've removed all those areas.
Some of them are bringing them back, and especially like British Airways, they're definitely bringing it back.
Well, the club kitchen, I mean, I think that was a big trend a few years ago, because it allowed the cabin crew to sit on their arses while customers had to do their own thing. So I do think that there was an issue.
That's what I was fishing for, my friend. Thank you for that, Frank.
Did you set me up, Chris?
That was lovely, mate. Yeah. I was waiting for that one.
You set me up.
I was waiting. No, I didn't set you up. I just led you down the path there, mate. But I knew you were going to come up with that. But that's the balance now, isn't it? Why do people think that might be better? Because I agree with you. Whenever the lights go down and you've got access, you can't see anyone. Well, you couldn't anyhow with the lights. I didn't mean that, but I meant you don't see so many staff.
Personally, I would rather serve myself than be served. That's a personal trait that I find nothing wrong with going to the bar, or so I've hated COVID where I've had to sit at a table, scan a bloody QR code or nonsense menu with my phone and wait for somebody to come and deliver it to me. So what I've been doing now at Heathrow as I've been flying in and out is I've worked this out. I scan the QR code, I see when I know what drink I've ordered, So a pint of Doom Bar or London Pride is being poured. So I nipped straight up the fill. I said, "Is that order 217?" I went, "Yeah, it's mine." "Okay, I'll pick that up." I said, "Oh, don't come to the bar, sir." I said, "Well, I'm here already. Just pass it over. Thanks very much." So I like standing at the bar. I
Yeah.
enjoy being at the bar. I enjoy English hospitality, being at the bar and doing my own thing. I also enjoy a buffet, for example.
A buffet. Oh, lovely.
Well, I do. Right. I mean, but I do think a lot of people enjoy the ability to engage in conversation and social.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think being
Yeah.
served at your seat, Chris, is I find it quite subservient. Actually, I don't like that serving thing, because I've seen a lot of it living here in Asia, having lived in Africa, as you will know, in the Middle East. I think if something can be done, do it yourself. I don't need to be served by somebody else. So I think that gives customers in the premium cabins the opportunity to stretch their legs and, pick up the sandwich or pick up their muffin and collect a drink from the bar and go back to the seat. I think it's a meaningful experience. I think that COVID was used as an excuse to kill that in some airlines, and in some places. I also think that COVID has killed the sort of the what we used to call the tray service, or the hand run, the hand run through the cabin, where customers would be served individual starter, clear in, main, clear in, dessert, clear in. Now you get a tray with everything in one, whether you're in business class, first class, or an economy. And that's just an absolute nonsense. So these airlines are trying to say, "Oh, we're COVID safe." Absolutely, you're not. Complete and utter BS. Stop talking BS and just deliver the service that I've paid for. So I do think, look, horses for courses, Chris. There is the people that want to be served at their seat and enjoy that 3-class service. There are folks like me that are on a short, 5-6 hour flight. I say short, that's short for me. Look, because a long flight for me is 16 hours. A medium haul flight for me is 14 hours. But I would say that not everybody wants to be served at the seat. Some people like to engage with the crew or engage with the passengers and do it themselves.
Yeah, no, horses for courses. And then listen, just moving away now from the passenger product and volume and value products, which is a big difference. Now, Qatar, again, just recently at the World Cargo Symposium, they made an announcement. Guillaume Hallou made an announcement that they were going to go over to replace their entire ULD fleet with Safran's fire-resistant containers over a 4 to 5 year period. Now, when people fly, and lots of people, they love the experience, they don't realise what's also underneath them in the cabins. And they get so surprised sometimes when they realise that, the products are commodities, and also, especially nowadays, with so much e-commerce and, and lithium batteries and all sorts that go into it. So Qatar, as you know, and the chief and everybody there, they're always willing to make a commitment, a big statement, or, to actually sort of change the way things are being done. But I think this is a really positive commitment that they're making here. So they got, I don't know, somewhere around something between 8,000 and 12,000 units in their fleet. And, they're looking now to make the change so that every single piece of cargo, baggage, etc., that travels, it will go on a more fire resistant unit than lots of other carriers. So when you're thinking about things, whether it's as deep as this or not, it also influences your choice.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that, Chris. I mean, how often would a shipper think about that?
Not often enough, Steve.
Right. So wherein lies the opportunity, I guess, is my question, really, because the solution has to be there to solve a problem. I think what Qatar are really good at are often solving problems that don't yet exist in the customer's mind. They're very good at being quite advanced in helping you solve a problem that they view is reasonable to expect in their minds, but I don't think the customers have quite yet caught up with that. So I think that probably is the same. If you know what I mean, I'm not being disingenuous. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying I don't think this has been articulated as an industry or a group of cargo shippers or agents or forwarders have sort of, considered experience. Would that be fair?
It would be fair, and it depends how. But I agree with you. They do sort of advanced positioning, and they do it very, very well. And for this one, it will come down to their care, because they're aware of the industry challenges: lithium batteries, e-commerce, undeclared goods. And what they're actually saying is that as a leading cargo airline, they put the safety of the passengers and employee first. So it's all part of that bigger. We go the extra mile. We do more, which. It's a shame that we don't have more regulatory comeback for those that don't declare correctly. But as a result, and if they want to do something like this, you've got an opportunity to extend and introduce these Class D fire resistant containers. At least they're going some way to their duty of care, as it says, to the customers and passengers. So overall, I think it's all part of their positive PR as to how far they're willing to go.
Well, I think we had a minor technical problem there, Chris, but I dropped off, but I have returned.
Well, thank you. That you wouldn't be the first one that's dropped off whilst I've been speaking, my friend. Yeah.
No, Chris, I never drop off when you're speaking because I'm normally asking for another round.
Yeah. No, but it's but I think it's positive, and the more awareness and the more transparency now on some of the issues, and the industry itself should be solving the problem, not waiting for other people and products to solve the problem.
That was exactly my point.
Earlier.
But Chris, that's where we as an industry have got to get our heads together and start to acknowledge and accept that there are things that can be done within our control, that we control, that are within our own destiny, and we're not reliant on others to fix. So, asking regulators to input, or asking, bodies like IATA or ICAO or others to help solve, I think if you think that is the solution, you've lost the plot. The solution rests within your own front door.
Yeah,
it's not outside of your front door. Yes, we need others to come along with us, but those others are sharing the same space that you are, and therefore we need to do this collaboratively together. Rather than expecting somebody else with a lens or some other kind of macro level view to come and support us. That's not going to happen, and that won't reap the best results for any of us.
Yeah. No, I know what you're saying. Now, another little, should I say little headline, but another issue just before we finish is you've got Air India. Okay, so obviously we both know a lot of people in that part of the world, and recently celebrating Diwali and everything. So fantastic.
Yes, as have we in Malaysia, Chris. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, and I hope you had a great time. But the fact that as they're nearing privatisation, and now you've got the government agencies coming forward for their dues, a figure that was put up was somewhere over $250 million owing to the airport authorities in fees.
Well, I'm sure it's much more, Chris. I think that probably is rather conservative. I don't think the airport authorities are the ones to look at, because I really would discount that as a left pocket, right pocket transaction. Air India was owned by the government of India. The Airports Authority of India, AAI, is owned by the government of India. So I think that's a wrong kind of connection to make. The connection to make are those dues and debts and creditors of the private sector, to whom Air India will owe massive amounts. There'll be more than a few hundred million, probably into the billions of dollars in recent years, and still haven't paid their dues. So as Air India, the phoenix resurrects itself from the ashes, and Sir Ratan Tata,
Tata and Sons,
Tata brothers, he doesn't have a son. So Tata brothers, I think I've met Sir Ratan Tata. I was very enamored by that, by the way. I thought that's one of the most humble men I'd ever come across, because he was on the board of AirAsia India when I was doing when I was a group head of operations for AirAsia, and so I was really chuffed to have met Ratan Tata. But the point was, I think the Tatas have got they've bitten off a lot. I hope they can chew it all, and they can swallow it all, and they can digest it all. It would be an unfortunate circumstance if they were invested in Air India as well as AirAsia India and Vistara. And was, I think, Sir Ratton's idea of, bringing this golden era of travel back to India, because of course it was his grandfather that started Air India back in the day. That was, I forget the original name. You probably, one of our listeners will remind us. I'm sure Sumit will remind us of the history.
Sumit would let us know.
Mr. Bharat will let us know. Mr. Bharat, if you're listening, please drop me a line and let me know the history of Air India. But I think it had something to do with Sir Ratton's grandfather. So lots of trouble ahead, I think, there for them, Chris. Lots of creditors that'll be unhappy, especially in the international markets. I'd be less worried about what's going on in India domestically. They're not really a major domestic Indian player now. Indigo got that space pretty well sewn up. I think Air India is pretty good internationally, and they need to look after the international regulators, regulated bodies, airports, and their supply chain. I think India probably is or AAI is the least of their worries.
Yeah, exactly. But it's amazing now, how things now start to correct themselves, how things will start to come back. And tomorrow I think it is, isn't it, with the US opening? So many people now getting ready to fly off.
BA Speedbird 1 will depart again, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's good news.
That flight number has been resurrected for the flight. So I'm great to see that. I think Sean Doyle himself and Luis will be on the flight. So Sean and Luis, if you're listening, safe travels on Speedbird 1 on your return to New York for unrestricted travel for both British and American citizens, which is fabulous news.
Yeah, no, it is, and especially the time of the year as well. So it's all good. Stephen,
just in time for Thanksgiving, Chris.
Yes, it is, fantastic. Listen, thanks again for your time, and look forward to seeing you next week.
Cheerio.
Appreciate it. Take care, mate.